Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Ivan, and I'm the current head of Information Services at Concordia University Library. Thank you so much for inviting me to present. I'd like to talk to you about my project, Building an Emergency Virtual Reference Service During Lockdown, a case study on service design and staff support through crisis. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm making this recording from a place that, just like Concordia University, is located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Kanien'kehá:ka Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters from where I join you today. Tiohtià:ke, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. This presentation describes a pilot project of a new virtual reference service aimed at compensating for the loss of in-person interactions during lockdown. Here's an overview of what I'd like to be sharing with you today. I'd like to go over the pilot project in context, the project rationale and proposed objectives, the service development phase, finally, the implementation phase and reception, and lessons learned and future directions. I don't believe it's an exaggeration to say that for many of us, the pandemic and the lockdown were profoundly disorienting experiences. For me, the lockdown occurred as I was starting to adjust to being in Montreal, having moved back from Ottawa in January of 2020. By March, I was in the process of learning more about my own team members and figuring out my role. However, being a new team member also gave me a useful perspective. I became keenly aware of the importance of having strong support systems, and it helped me empathize with students more than ever. I realized how crucial it was to reach out to them and help them through this experience. I thought I'd give you a pre-pandemic snapshot of our reality at Concordia Library. During fall and winter semesters, physical spaces were open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Study spaces were available at 3 locations, 2 on the downtown campus at Webster and Gray Nuns Reading Room, and 1 at Loyola campus at Vanier Library. A reference team based at both campuses delivered services through 4 established channels, in person and over the phone, via online live chat, and through email. Here are some useful figures to keep in mind. In the fall semester of 2019, these 3 locations received cumulative visits that ranged from 7,900 to 11,500 a day on average. In terms of daily interactions, the reference team handled a range of 250 to 350 daily requests, again, on average. For those of you not familiar with Concordia Library, I thought I'd share a few images. This is a staircase to the Webster Library, where I work. This is one of the many busy reading rooms at Webster. And this is a view of Vanier Library on Loyola campus. And this is a snapshot of some of our service points at both campuses. If before March 2020, this was a bustling, active space, after the pandemic, our team members were dispersed and had to work apart from one another and away from our campus. I know this is a very familiar narrative to all of you. This is a view of Webster Library during lockdown. And this is a view of the Ask Us desk at Webster that I took in July of 2020. I cannot emphasize enough what a surreal experience it was to see these spaces empty of people. I realized quickly, by following the news and keeping up to speed with COVID-related public health information, that only a medical breakthrough would lead to the lifting of the lockdown, and that, as inconceivable as it seemed, academic activities would continue to take place online during the fall semester. Early on, I had anticipated the students would miss face-to-face interactions and the connections they would establish with our team that would help them navigate their academic career. Weekly meetings with my team and other colleagues made me realize that our team was deeply affected as well. We already missed the camaraderie we shared at work, the ease of face-to-face communications, the ability to share information informally and daily, and to socialize and support one another, to feel connected and part of the same team. A decision crystallized in my mind to create a virtual service that would approximate or recreate some aspects of the in-person reference desk experience. Here are a few key aspects of the project rationale. The service would have to be welcoming, safe, responsive, and tailored to the student's needs. It should combine the reliability of the reference desk service hours with easy access, ideally one click away. It would help students get to know their team of information professionals and learn how to get support from them. The reference team would benefit from interacting and supporting one another as they were used to in the physical desk. When patrons would arrive in this virtual space, they would be welcomed by 2 members of the team and get their attention and help. They would be able to move a longer interaction to a private space for one-on-one reference support. In the early stages, From May to June of 2020, I focused on building the project. I also did a brief environmental scan about the library's use of teleconferencing technology and a needs assessment. Once the project was approved by Library Cabinet, I spent the period from June to August of 2020 developing the new service parameters. Building on the existing live chat service, I communicated and refined the project goals and worked on testing system functionality, addressing scheduling needs, governance, and other administrative aspects of the service, such as hosting duties and service hours. Doing staff training, and through it all, focusing on the change management required to adjust to delivering reference services in a virtual environment. Platform selection was the next step. Zoom was already used by the university to assist in delivering teaching to students. We engaged in extensive testing, defining service parameters, for instance, how many breakout rooms to set up or how long to keep them open. During this phase, I involved my information services team members, staff, and student librarians, and engaged them in brainstorming sessions, testing setups, and role-playing. They all reported feeling energized by the problem-solving aspects of the work and by the prospect of helping students face-to-face once again. This was followed by stress testing the platform, drafting safety protocols to prevent instances of Zoom bombing, for instance. And then we focused on training, practice sessions, and made adjustments to settings based on the feedback we received. Launch date was the first day of classes, September 8, 2020. I'm happy to say that patrons arrived during the first hour. The length of interactions ranged from 4 minutes long on average to 75 minutes to 90 minutes over time. The average interaction length was 20 minutes and a half. We never reached the frequency of in-person reference, but there were many, many return visitors and positive comments from users and staff. After the launch, we made small adjustments, progressively adding more staff members to the service in October of 2020 and in January of 2021. And we refined some of our procedures. Here are some of the positive outcomes for students. They had quick, easy access to a knowledgeable team. They had the opportunity for face-to-face interactions, got access to a safe space to share concerns and get answers. They received assistance with technology and became increasingly familiar and comfortable with it. Also, at a time when Zoom was omnipresent and the students would routinely turn off their cameras in class, we often had patrons who would engage with us and turn on their cameras after they interacted with us for a few minutes. Our approach was to be present, welcoming, reassuring, to establish dialogue and invite interaction, but not pressure users to engage beyond their comfort zone. For the reference team, we had the opportunity to reconnect and share resources which many recognized. There was a noticeable improvement in communication and information sharing within the joint reference team. It helped demystify video conferencing technology, and it reduced some of the anxiety of being on camera that transferred into other work. It provided a support structure to help us cope with global trauma by sharing our experiences. Here are some of the challenges we faced: how to create safe spaces for patrons and staff alike, how to empower staff in the process, how to build a new system centered on student experiences when students were difficult to reach, how to handle the cybersecurity and privacy concerns, how to handle the balance of the need to connect with the need to disconnect, how to manage and alleviate self-consciousness on camera. Here are some of the things that helped in the process: asking questions and listening closely to people's concerns and suggestions, stress testing the platform functionality, incorporating feedback and adjusting to user needs, training and practice sessions, and finally, recognizing the project's limitations, that it could never fully replicate in-person activities. We learned to balance connecting people in beneficial ways, being respectful and inclusive of their individual experiences, with creating a cohesive, consistent experience across the service. In terms of empowering staff members' active involvement in the design process showed how their skills can transfer to different settings. And by helping them help others, it contributed to restoring their sense of agency. It also helped inspire a university-wide student service that is still active. I helped them make recommendations and advised on their setup. I helped build relationships with other departments in the process. There are many questions left to answer. Here are just a few. What is the future of virtual or video conferencing reference? Is Zoom the right platform for this service, or do we need to create our own? Where does it fit in a post-pandemic world? And one question I'm very keen in answering is, how do we maintain a healthy balance between in-person and virtual experiences, given our increasing reliance on technology? The emerging concept of digital wellness is worth exploring and understanding. Here's a brief view of my selected bibliography. And finally, my thanks to the reference team at Webster and Vanier, my team, whose names are currently on the screen, for their amazing contribution and their dedication to helping our community. And for any questions or feedback, please feel free to reach out to me at laura.ivan@concordia.ca. Many thanks to you.